चल शुरू करते हैं.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Karan Chauhan, and I am joined by my co-host Prashant Pasunuri. And today we have a very special guest for everybody listening, Vishal Seigell, the head coach of Koi Combat Academy for Team MMA India at the 2019 IMAF World Championships. And the reason all of us had so much confidence going into those World Championships at the Team India.
Hey, I'm doing well, and thank you, Karan and Prashant, for having me on your podcast. I'm doing great. Thank you. I hope you guys are well.
For a change, we have a different Seigell, and this one is a crucial Seigell for the sport of it. It's not Steven Seigell, but this is Vishal Seigell, a crucial one for the sport of Indian MMA.
We're gonna lose so many followers. That fuck all joke, but okay. But yeah. But okay, so Coach, talk to us about how Koi Combat came to be and how you got into MMA.
So let's start with how I got into MMA. I was in the US. I was living in Kansas, of all places in the US. Just down the street from my house was it was a MMA gym, and it was one of the best after Pat Milich's camp. The Militich Fighting System camp. This Crawford's MMA American Jiu-Jitsu was the next big thing. So fortunately, I happened to go there and started training, and they offered traditional martial arts and pancration and different disciplines. And one night I ended up seeing pro and amateur fighters training for mixed martial arts, which kind of intrigued me. So even much before that, when I was here in India and I was in kickboxing, in taekwondo and karate, my coach, now Master Narendra Singh Rawat, he used to talk about the Gracie brothers and mixed fights and NHB. So before it was called MMA, it was called No Hold Bar, or Vale Tudo in Portuguese, right?
Right.
So that is where the interest grew. I was always I was always much before going to the US competing in. I had started out with judo. So I was competing in judo, in open striking competitions, which included kickboxing, karate, kung fu, wushu, so on and so forth. And so the appreciation for other arts and what would work and what wouldn't work was there from a long time ago. And when I ended up being here in US and started training, it was a whole new world. Thinking that I know grappling because I did judo, it was a good wake up call when I got into learning in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and so on. Initially, I'd started out with American Jiu-Jitsu, which is kind of a derivative, but it focuses a lot on wrestling as well. Okay. So that's where I got my initial training in. I was lucky enough to train with a lot of athletes who have competed, in Strikeforce, WEC, Titan Fighting Championship, UFC, Cage Rage in the UK, and so on. So Rob Kimmins, Bobby Walker. Bobby Walker is still fighting, I think, in Bellator.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And then we have Curtis Stout. Curtis Stout fought Anderson Silva in UK. So so living with the fighters, it kind of really helped me understand, what it was all about. So
right.
And for your second question, as far as Koi is concerned, I always, even initially as a child, when I was about 13, 14, I had this, I like to train people who were not able to afford training. So when I'd come back, it was to work. Initially, I was working with NGOs, doing self-defense, so on and so forth with the kids, personality development, so on. And then I ended up meeting Sid in Delhi. I was seeking a place to train at, and this was again just down the street. And we ended up hooking. I think December of 2012. That's when he started his first branch, and he was fairly new. So after that, it just went from there. I moved to Bangalore around 2015, 2016, and it never looked back. So the whole point was to get kids from, weak socioeconomic backgrounds who just don't have the opportunity or the know-how, and kind of build them up from there so they can develop their community. They can, change their standards of living and so on. So in short, that was the whole point of getting Koi into the picture at that point in time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the business aspect of sports like that, I feel is incredibly essential in terms of the growth of the sport itself, because so many people overlook that. People just think that people oftentimes think that, no, I'm going to do well at the IMATs, I'm going to do well at the GAMMA and the GAMMA World Championships, and I'm going to end up fighting for a big organization, and I'm going to make it to the UFC, I'm going to make it to one championship. And they have this unrealistic, not well thought out game plan in terms of their careers in the long run. I'm so glad that there's organizations like yours that do help athletes chart out their careers the way they should be, because there's a good way of doing it. There's, sometimes there's a once in a lifetime, 1 in a 1 million shot type, like Bharat Kandari when he got into the UFC. Obviously, there was so much controversy that went into it because, people made the argument that he was so old. He was 32 years old getting into the UFC now, and in my opinion, got absolutely murked. I have nothing against the guy, but I think that he just got into the UFC at the wrong time, which is a result of hanging around bad people, people that don't give you smart advice, right? So it can shoot your career up and derail it just as fast or even faster sometimes. So you talk about the MMA scene in Bangalore, because I feel like Bangalore is just the Shark Tank of MMA gyms. You have IJJ, you had Gado MMA where Kanta and everybody used to train. Obviously Kanta trained with you at one point. Now you have Koi Combat Academy. That's, I've seen your team grow so much in the last couple of years. Even at these 2020 and the 2021 nationals, there were so many people that came from Koi Combat Academy. And you guys, honestly, in terms of, I've never seen a more passionate corner than you. Like when you're in somebody's corner, you have a way of getting people fired up. So what drives you like that to be so, even when your athletes are failing sometimes, like with me personally in the World Championships when you were cornering me, what makes you so determined to make your athlete win the way you do, or to encourage the athlete the way that you encourage them? Because I've not seen somebody lose their voice that way like you do. Literally lose your voice trying to scream for the athletes.
How do I'll try to answer that in the best way possible. See, and it might I might go slightly off topic in the start. I've been raised by a single mother, right? And as a kid, I was bullied, and I was awkward, and the story that a lot of people go through, right? And fortunately, my mother was a sports person. My elder brother was a sports person, and I got a lot of motivation from that, right? And but the sad part is, as much as my mother did support me, I was not really able to become like an Asian champion or a world champion, so on and so forth. And that is one dream that I could never fulfill for myself.
Right.
Second thing is, a lot of times, and you would definitely know this, any athlete would definitely, combat athlete would know it. Sometimes when we are in a contest, depending on how it is going, we might, if things are not going our way, we start looking for, our mind starts looking for excuses, and we slowly start going towards the opposite direction of why we came into that ring that day or that night, right?
Yep.
So everything that we train for, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the so on and so forth, is for the culmination of being in that cage, ring, or on the mats, right? And to sitting outside, seeing from a third person's point of view, it is, for me, it is imperative to let my fighter know or whoever the fighter is that I'm cornering know that you might have lost, you might not, let me rephrase that. You might be behind the first and the second round, but you still have a full 3 or 5 minutes in the third, right? And you have to, there is no two other ways about it. You have to kind of leave it in the ring. Sure, tournaments are different and one night fights are different. That's not what I'm referring to, but it is a lot of times it is not physical. It is all mental. A lot of people will perform if you light that proverbial fire under their butt. They will perform. They will wake the f up, and they will.
You can use
fight.
language on this. There's no hang-ups to that. Yeah, go ahead.
So anyway, so that is the thing, and I'm already very competitive. If something is if we have trained in something, and I know that's your potential, and I know, and I've seen you have a soft, ending to the fight, or beginning or middle or whatever. I will make you do what you are capable of doing and then some. Because every fight, you're going to start realizing something about yourself. You're going to start learning something about yourself. You teach yourself something, and that is paramount. Win, lose, draw. Yes, obviously, you will not always win unless you're Khabib. But the person who you are a big fan of. But the thing is, it is a lot to do with making the person remember. Sure, it is a one-man fight. You're the one who's fighting, but your team, your coach, your parents, whoever has been a part of your journey, fights with you in effort, in whatever we go through, our camaraderie, our training, or whatever. So it is imperative that fighters start realizing, because a coach will always not be there. The same coach who wakes you up may not be there. Maybe it's a different coach who's good at something else, he or has a different style. I've heard some coaches say that you have to be calm, collected. Yes, you do, but sometimes when that when the situation is there which requires the high intensity pitch of voice, then that's what in my opinion should be delivered. And it's as the competition grows, Karan, as you know, where we were 3 years ago as talent wise and where we are now, till last 6 months, it's totally different. Everybody, and there is so many good coaches here in India. Infrastructure is starting to come. So again, it is there are no second chances. You are inside already. You may lose the fight, and that's okay, but you learn, you teach yourself. So the next time when you step in, you're already one up, and you don't make that mistake again, or try not to, at least.
I'm so glad you ended by saying that, because I still remember when you called a team meeting after our fights, after everybody lost, after everybody felt so fucking dejected. All of us had long faces in that hotel room where you called us. Everybody, that's one thing I took away from that tournament. If I didn't take anything away from that loss, I took something away from that team meeting where you told all of us, where you made us be honest with ourselves about, what the fuck we thought went wrong. And not a lot of coaches do that. Not a lot of coaches make the fighters face themselves like that, in front of everybody, in front of your team, in front of these comrades who you've been training alongside for so long, right? That's one thing I took away from it. And it's helped me till today, because every time I feel like I fucked up, every time I feel like I failed, I've always thought back to that instance and tried to instill and tried to talk to myself. Like, I record voice notes and I listen back to it. You made me write a little note to myself. I still have it in my phone. The day I lost, I still have it, and I still think of I still think about the talk you gave me right after I slammed my gloves down. I put my shin pads into my bag, and we fucked off from there. But yeah, I mean, it's lighting the proverbial fire is very, very essential when your fighter is behind, when your fighter is I've started coaching now. I mean, I've started conducting classes. I can't say coaching. It's not fair for me to say that. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because it makes you become a far more patient, but at the same time, more passionate person about the sport. Definitely. And you've had, in the last couple of years, you've had some athletes that have gone around the world and done such amazing things, i.e. Kantharaj Agasa is one of them. You have Roshan, Mainam, and Roshan and Kanta actually fought each other twice, if I'm not wrong, right? How did that work out for you? Were you coaching them around the same time?
No. Kanta came a little bit after Roshan. So how things started with Roshan was met him at in Delhi at Cross Train Fight Club.
Right.
And at that time, I was conducting the morning sessions for Striking and MMA. And, this guy comes in super humble, doesn't even look at your eyes, just head down. And Roshan, aaj kya karna hai? Mehnat karni hai ji. Okay, so his you must have seen those people who wear those t-shirts. Your workout is my warm-up, or my warm-up is your workout, or something along the lines. That guy is an epitome of that. In terms of work ethic and work rate. So how would you not fall in love with somebody, who has come to learn from you and wouldn't want to? So that is where it all started. Lucky for him, he didn't have, he hardly had any money. The reason he wanted to get into MMA was because he needed that kind of money, right? So the diligence, the work ethic, the being humble, everything was there. So that's how we started with Roshan. Eventually, he ended up coming to Bangalore to work for Cult.
Really?
And him and one other guy who used to be at Cross Train. So, and then at that time, I had got done with my divorce, and I just got here, and then we hooked up, and then we restarted our training. So he already, he had at that time he had learned, he had been doing BJJ with Siddharth. And then Gaurav Gulaya and there was a few others. Deepak Casey was the SNC guy, and I was the striking guy. And I think that's pretty much what it was. And he ended up coming here. He was also at Gado for a while for jiu-jitsu with Lachlan. And so he ended up, his first fight was I think he ended up losing via submission in a minute and a half. I don't know if it was a RNC or a guillotine. It was one of the two. And
that was his first fight.
That was his first fight with Kanta. Yes, and Kanta was a star. I mean, still is a star.
Super season at that time.
Yes, and Kanta even beat Nito. Nito was like a European champion.
I know. He beat Nito. Yeah, right. And Kanta beat him, and was he the BJJ black belt that Kanta beat?
Yes, Nito.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Nito. Yeah. Nito,
so he was a European champion, I think. And so anyway, so that's where it started. And Kanta came after Roshan had already gone to Singapore. Roshan had been selected. He had gone for the selections, came back, I think 2018 end, and then 19 beginning he went. So the thing about these guys is that, they have the fire, regardless of if they want to build a legacy, regardless if, a guy started working at the age of 6, tending cattle, doing odd jobs, working the rice fields. His mom used to work the rice mill. Dad couldn't work. Dad was chronically ill from then and still is now, till yesterday. So regardless, I mean, you can put all those dreams, the goals together of why, right? But what the end result was that somebody who just has no other choice but to succeed. Right. Same goes for Kanta. Though he is a 4th generation wrestler in his family, the first 7 to 8 fights he learned from YouTube with minimal coaching. Yes, his first around 7 to 8 fights. If you ever get to talk to him, ask him. That is a driven person. It doesn't matter. I don't have a coach. No, give me Google, give me YouTube. I'll work from there. And he already has a great pedigree. National champion judo, wrestling state champion, Asian gold medalist, no-gi and gi. So for jiu-jitsu, right? So and they have the drive. Nobody else pushes them. They have to work, they have to train, and then they have to perform. So the problem, well, we'll get to that later. But so the thing is to work with athletes who are so driven and listen, because there is a process to be followed. You can't
Right.
take shortcuts. Like we grow up, we go to pre-nursery, nursery, school, college, so on and so forth. Not everybody goes
Right.
to college, but anyway,
Mhm.
I'm just saying the structure step by step. Here you have an athlete who will train for 1 year and think he's ready for brave. He might be, if he has
Mhm.
the attributes, if he has the physique, and if he can put it all together. Physique, I mean,
Right.
the right
Physicality of the
correct. Like
yeah.
Michael Phelps for swimming. He's built for
Hamza
swimming. John
Chimaev.
Jones. Yeah.
Hamza Chimaev. Yeah.
Yes.
Chimaev got
Yes.
his first fight 2 weeks after he started training in MMA.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go. So
Mhm.
some people are just built for it. You need to
Mhm.
start, nurturing them, training them, and so on, and grooming them. So these
Right.
are the guys. But the unfortunate part is that they are part-time fighters in the sense that they have to work,
Yeah.
right, to earn a living.
Yeah.
So they have to choose between is eating more important or is training more important. Well, guess what? Both is
Yeah.
more. Both need each other, right? Depending on
Exactly.
what your
Where there's a
goals
will,
are. Correct.
there's a way, and you find a fucking way to do it. Yeah.
Correct. So
Yeah.
coming back to that, where I was
Mhm.
saying, it is very hard, man, to be able to, because like I said, I lived in the US. I was living with a couple of fighters. One guy was a painter. One guy was
Mhm.
in construction. You know how physically taxing these jobs are. And then
Yeah.
in the evening, they would come and have a bath covered in dust or paint or whatever, and then come get training done and then go back out. And I have seen guys who have the potential, but do not have the financial support. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
and due to which they cannot accomplish whatever that goal was.
Mhm.
World
Mhm.
champion, multiple weight category champion, or whatever it may be. So,
Yeah.
I have also been lucky to work with these guys, but it was just guiding them, putting things together, letting them know things that are important, understanding the process,
Right.
and so on and so forth. You cannot shortcut anymore. Now I've started seeing where fighters are understanding कि थोड़ी सी striking है, थोड़ा सा take down कर लेंगे तो हो जाएगा, सब कुछ नहीं चलता,
Right.
right? You have to trust in your training, you have to trust in your camp, you have to trust in your coach, you have to trust in yourself, and you have to give your camp and coach the time to develop you. 6 months, then you're here, then you go there, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year. It doesn't work like that, right?
Mhm.
It takes a long time to develop an athlete.
The point that
So
you talked about financial conditions, coach, that was a question I wanted to ask you. Now, you said you had a painter, construction worker coming on, training MMA in the evening. How much of an influence does the financial condition or poverty play a role in a fighter's career in this country, in India, as compared to the other countries? Is it just a mental thing, or is it a social thing? What do you think it is?
to be honest, depending on whatever our backgrounds is, whatever we have seen in our past or been through in our past, it comes down to that. It comes down to how we formulate our thoughts, how we react to something. Something that might be hard for me might not be hard for you. A situation we may have gone through. So, but it does. It plays a critical role. Now, now we just talked about Kanta and Roshan, right? So let's just
Right.
use them as an example, if that's okay. Now, Roshan came, I told you, at the age of 6 or 7, he started working, right? And it was him and his mother who were working.
Oh, he was working
And
at the age of 6?
yeah, that's what yes, 6 or 7 at the
Okay, and he
age of
comes
six or
from the
seven
state
is
of? He comes from
Manipur.
Manipur. Okay.
Manipur,
Mhm.
correct. So it is already a hard life. They already didn't come from a family that was
Well to do.
forget well to do of. It was very financially weak. And
Mhm.
then to see the father's medical condition, other brothers, sisters, siblings to be taken care of, and so on. Then he puts himself. He sees wrestling and he gets into it. Initially, nobody accepted him because he looked like somebody who has polio. Nobody would talk to him. Nobody, because he was literally a weakling, and this is not a made up story. This is a verified situation that he went through. And he wanted to play table tennis, and he sucked at it. I think he played about 18 or 20 games in a tournament, and he sucked at it. So one day he ended up seeing some wrestlers, and they looked like physically very strong. And that's the day he said, I want to be like that. And that's where he started his wrestling. And then I think a couple of years he trained in Manipur, and then he ended up going to Delhi.
Okay.
His resilience, his work ethic is what put him like, when you talk about combat athletes, all athletes go through hell. But I don't, let me see what Karan has to say about it. But wrestlers are a little, I would say, above the rest in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't you agree? So,
yeah, absolutely, 100%.
It's a totally different fortitude. So he just knew one thing: I have to succeed. I have to succeed. He was going to go for the Junior Olympics. He ended up hurting his ankle, and he was a favorite to win.
Oh,
wow.
So what had happened was he had forgotten his shoes. He asked somebody to bring his shoes. The guy brings a bigger size shoe. His foot gets stuck and he rolls his ankle. And that's all she wrote. Anyway, recovered, became Delhi state champion multiple times. And then he said, "There's no money in wrestling. I need to earn money because now my mom can't work either." Right. So and on top of that, when he had come, he was traveling, he had lost all his certificates, his bag of certificates, everything he had earned from Manipur till Delhi. So luckily he came to cross train, and over there he thought 500, actually there was a certain amount that was a fee for trials. And then if you liked it, then you join and whatever. So he thought that was the month ka fee. Later to come to find out that was only the trial fee. He was broken. He said, "I'm going home." So we spoke to a guy, and then Sid and I, talked about it. And then Sid was gracious enough, since it was his gym, to give him permission to train. So he sponsored his training at that point in time. So that's where he started getting lucky, in a sense, Roshan, right? Then he came to Bangalore. Then he was with a good group of people. He was training with Govindale, and he was training with Tribhuvan sir, Vivek, Dondi, and a few other guys, Shivaraj, and a few other guys. So he was always in touch. And then they ended up training. Most of them were going to Gado for other things also, other than BJJ, but he went to Gado for BJJ. So he started understanding what is required. So coming to all that, is your question is that he got lucky, right? Then came the chance where we found out about these selections at Evolve. Luckily, he had a passport, and we somehow, after multiple calls, emails, and setting up his profile and so on and so forth, all the work, he goes there, gives the selection. 6 people selected, 1,000 were sent in applications, 35 people got there. Only 6 were selected. There was world champions in there. Roshan was one of them.
Wow.
So what I'm saying is, he put his heart and mind into it, and he said, "I have no other choice but to succeed." Right. So he got there. He got to a certain point, and he got to train with such athletes. Now, on the flip side, we have Kantharaj, who is a very accomplished athlete across 3 fields: judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, 4 fields, wrestling and MMA.
Okay.
Right. That's 4, right?
Yes.
That's 4.
So and he's put in the work. He's done everything that needs to be done. The guy sat down and he looked at YouTube videos to teach himself, and trained. And then he ended up going for the IMF Nationals, World Championship, was it, in 2015?
Yes, correct.
And
the Vegas.
And then he was tooling everybody in SFL when he was fighting there, right? So after that, he came, he was with Gado. Yes, you're right. He was with Gado at that time. And then, he was with me for a few months. But unfortunately, I could not cater to his requirement, because we had a very limited place we were working at. We had a room of 265 square meters, meters.
Square feet.
Small room.
No, square feet now, that is, or square
square
meters?
feet. Sorry,
Yeah,
excuse me.
Square feet.
I apologize. Small room.
Because I suppose
my team used to live there.
Yeah. Tell me.
So Roshan has trained there, Kanta has trained there, a lot of people, Shankar has trained there, Tribhuvan, Dondi, Surbala, Ashutosh, everybody has trained there. So Dinesh, Songrang, everybody. So, but he didn't get that break. Unfortunately, like Roshan did, where he went for a selection process and he got selected. When Kanta went, he did not get selected. It was a different condition of selection. Kanta went individually. Unfortunately, he also got injured there within the training and the selection. So what I'm saying is, both athletes come from adversity, different adversity. Nobody has supported Kanta financially or otherwise. till the time he reached a certain point, right? And then there was limited help. There was help, but not what he required. So what I'm saying is, your question is, it is regardless of what country you're in, it is obviously challenging, but India makes it even worse, as given the how things are here. And I'm not trying to demean my country in any which way, but what I'm saying is, unfortunately, things are now starting to improve. In the past 3 years, have started to improve for athletes in boxing, in wrestling, wushu, archery, badminton, so on and so forth. But it has. If you are a part-time fighter and your goal is to be a world champion in one of the biggest promotions, then you cannot be a part-time fighter. You will never be able to live your dream. I don't care if you're John Jones, if you're Khabib, you just can't do it. You need that kind of dedication. It is required. It's not magic. So you have to put in the work to get those results.
Right.
So on that note where we ended, I wanted to understand a little bit about how you went about the process of making an application for Roshan to join the Evolve Fight team, because that's something that a lot of athletes have been wondering for a while. Now, of course, there's AK Mandram Beach that's coming up, a super camp in Goa, if you want to call it that. But more than just sending your application in, what goes into making an application for an athlete? Can you dumb that down first?
Absolutely. So you have to obviously have a profile of all your accomplishments, in this field. It has to be detailed, and there is a way to present it. It cannot be, you have to get help from a professional to do it. And so how this came around was Conan from Conan Daily, not from the US, from the Philippines. He covers a lot of combat events, and he's a big fan of Roshan, and he had sent us that there is a selection process going on in Singapore. And otherwise, we would have not known anything about it. I think 20 or 25 days before the selection, before the day you had to be there, we got to know this information. Yes, so we scrambled. There was they had sent some requirements. It is not really rocket science, but it is whatever you present has to be systematic, and it has to be structured. So from your latest accomplishments to your background, to your background as far as training is concerned, and background as what challenges and adversities you have faced, what brings you here, what is your passion, so on and so forth. And you have to be very detailed and but precise. You can't get into too much. So then there was training videos, and the training videos are not supposed to be modeling videos. They're supposed to be actual training videos, where you can show your your technique, so on and so forth. Now, the good thing about Evolve is that if they wanted world champions, then most of these guys won't get a chance. They want a person who can be developed. So if you go there, or if you put something on your application that is BS, trust me, they will catch it. They're in the business of, they've been in this business for a very long time. So you cannot so you have to be very realistic about, what stories you're telling, in order to get sponsorships or to get into training camps like that. So it was for me to kind of basically, it's just like how you fill out a job application. The only difference is that it's not a desk job. It's a job in the ring or the cage or the mat. Every time I talk about the cage, Karan smiles. He's always reminiscing. When will I get back in there to kick some, what?
Yeah, seriously.
So it has to be precise. Your information, you don't get a second chance in these things, because people are going to look at your profile and they're going to say yes or no. So it goes in a yes or it goes in a no. And if you oversell yourself in the sense that you are giving things that are not true or that you do not have, tomorrow they're going to expect that from you when you're standing in front of them.
Right.
And if you're not able to deliver, then they know you're a BSer, and then you're gone. It's as simple as that. So, and then it's just not Evolve. It's anybody who comes to me or to you or to any other camp. So that's the way it would work in that respect. So, you have a lot of athletes, unfortunately, here in India who who get these filmy stories about how they are suffering, and that takes away from the actual athletes. It does.
Right.
The sponsorship that is going to them, and they're not even somebody who knows how to throw a punch, and instead should be going to somebody who can actually has the potential and should be supported. And that gives us a bad name, because this person who's faking it will go get their behind handed to them. And then that's the level everybody's looking at. Oh, yeah, Indian hai, right. Exactly. I've been to tournaments, and I have had that feeling as an athlete, as a coach, and it is not a good feeling, because people don't understand and realize what we go through and the limitations we have.
Right.
In terms of, it could be like we went for the World Championship, it could be the camp, it could be injuries, it could be everybody goes through that, but specifically in terms of structuring all that and putting it all together, it can be very challenging, especially for us.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you speak about limitations. Kantharaj made a very good point about this in his interview with Locker Room, where people look at Indian fighters as almost as warm-up fights for their future fights. I overheard some people who I don't want to name the country because I don't know who they are, but I overheard some people from a foreign country at the World Championship speaking about us in a very bad way, thinking we don't understand English, which fucked with my ego quite a bit. I don't like to admit that I have one, but over there, honestly, when you hear that about yourself, you hear that about your teammates, you hear that about your coaches, it sucks dick, because when you know how much work you put in, about the amount of sacrifices you've made as an Indian athlete, because for any 18, 19, 16, 17-year-old Indian boy, the responsibilities that fall upon your shoulders, boy, girl, whatever, I'm sorry, but you, as a person growing up in our country, that the responsibilities you have towards your family, you have towards society, it doesn't exist in countries that have these systems, that have the government support to do the sport that we do. Another thing that made me really, really mad about the fact is about how Surbala, when she got injured, right? When she got injured, she had little to no support. We had to rely completely solely on public on the public to donate. I mean, I don't know exactly what the situation was. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But there's not. You have to be wary of how to get to the tournament before you even get to the fucking tournament. You have to worry about keeping your sponsors happy. You have to worry about keeping your coaches happy. Coaches, obviously, because the coaches are there with you on the front line. But you have to worry about what if I get injured? How am I going to find my way back? So us Indian fighters are always thinking about these different things, whereas people from other countries, their only focus is to compete. I happened to speak to my adversary from Russia, and he didn't know what a school was. Like, he genuinely didn't know what a school was. All they know is MMA. All they know is all they know is wrestling. All they know is fighting. All they know is to perform at that level because they've done it so many times. And he told me something that was very, very, very scary. He said that the Russian nationals were a lot harder than fighting at the World Championships. Now imagine that. Imagine having your nationals at such a high level where when you compete with the rest of the world, you're leaps and bounds ahead of everybody. Right. So how do you deal with that with your athletes? Like when you're encouraging athletes now, I saw Dinesh looked like he looked like he was about to run through everybody in that division. In training, he was running through everybody in training that were like 4 or 5 weight classes above him. So to be able to have that confidence, you need to have a very, very, very good coach, and that's exactly what Dinesh had in Vishal. And the belief that I saw that Dinesh had in himself, what did you say to him on a daily basis? Because there's that work ethic that he had that background in wrestling, he had that insane strength. I remember I put him in a triangle and he just picked me up and slammed out of it, and I was just like, fuck, I don't want to catch this guy in a triangle again, because it's gonna keep happening to me. So what do you say to an athlete like that? Like how do you amp an athlete up to believe in himself that much? Because even going into that tournament, he was 7-0. I remember you telling me. So
he was 7-0, and now it's, I think, 8-1. See, going back to the same thing, it's Karan, it's and you have first-hand experience in that respect. Thing is, most of the guys that I took under my wing, when I say guys, I mean both guys and boys and girls. I mean, right? They had potential. They had a fire. and they had no excuses when it came to work, and they listened. Right.
Right.
That is what a person needs. And every time when somebody starts going away from the reality of what they want and the reality of what they are doing, then you just have to get in your conversations with them. You just have to get naked, so to speak, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And it is I just have to make them remember where they are coming from very systematically, very where they're coming from, why they took this up, what situation their family is in currently, and can they provide for them or not. Right? Do you want to take that 2 years to 3 years or 5 years in building yourself, or do you want to take that and just piss it away? Right? Because every second you can, if you're not learning something, you're doing something wrong. We historically, Indian athletes have always been behind. Always. Any sport you take. I don't know about cricket. I don't follow it anymore. But we have been mostly, on an average, on most sports, we've been behind. Why? Because the system was such in India. Now it's starting to change, and it has changed. And we have shown results that with the kind of population we have, there is no way that we shouldn't have many more world champions. It is just the structure, right? So it is. See, for me, it is not or at least till now, it wasn't a business. This was, for me, I am your parent and you fucking listen to me. There is no two ways about it. There is no, there can't be, because you want to succeed or you want to fail. You want to give your father that medical care that he deserves, or do you want to just send him to some hospital where nobody's going to be even looking at him properly? Right? And these are real things. Chongring is one guy who's gone pro now. His brother passed away, unfortunately, September of 2019. His brother has 2 kids. Chongring has 2 kids. His brother's wife, Chongring's wife, and Chongring's mother. That's all on Chongring's shoulder. The guy is a fighter. He was also, when all this COVID happened, he ran back to Manipur to start working the rice fields. So there's money to feed the family, and I'm not exaggerating one bit, right? So there is, if a person is honest, and if in regards to, if they want the result, but they have the balls to put the work behind it, then that's the only thing I need to kind of remind them of. Right. I have had athletes who have tons of potential, but they don't have the discipline. They can be, there is, Karan, I don't know if you remember Vishwamitra or not, but he has all the potential, the intensity of everything he has to be a solid champion, but no discipline.
Now, again, I don't mean to dive too deep into that, but what do you define as discipline in that sense? Like bad habits? Are you talking about bad habits? Are you talking about this one? How do I put this? Just not bringing it to training every day. You know what I mean? You're not showing up to training every day. Not showing up physically, but not showing up mentally to training every day. What do you define as discipline that way?
Discipline, consistency in training. Not wandering off to party too much. I mean, just doing what needs to be done. So it's all of the above, actually, Karan. And with him, most because once we went to X1 in 2018 August, and he fought Navdeep Agarwal. Navdeep Agarwal is a YFC champion, a wizard, and I mean, he's a stud. And Vishwamitra beats him in 1 minute 25 seconds with a submission. With a submission,
he submitted a submission artist.
Yes, So I'm no knock. I mean, he has, and we have tons of respect for Navdeep. But the accomplishment in itself was, I'm a badass now. So the maturity of the thought process. He might be the best guy at heart, but if you have a goal, because he made a promise to his father. His father is a big fan of. He started watching MMA and the UFC, and then unfortunately, when he was on his deathbed, Bishu told him, "I'll be a champion." That's what drove him, but the discipline wasn't there. So these are the small things, but for some people it can also be that they have immediate requirement of financial support or finances or money or whatever, right? So they do have to go do other things. They can't be at work, they can't be at training, or they have to go pro too soon so they can start getting paid. That is also a situation that is there. Chongring is the example for that. So so that I mean, it's things are getting better, don't get me wrong. It's just that these are situations these guys cannot escape, and because they are born into, but they can definitely change that situation. Sometimes you just have to starve for a little bit to be able to go get all the good food. What I mean by that is, like, you have to put yourself through the
Tough times.
Good
time.
Correct. And then, you start enjoying the fruits of your labor, like Roshan, for example. Kantharaj, to a certain extent, yes. So if people like Vishwamitra and, all these new young bucks coming up, they, you put them in a camp or in a school or a facility, and you say, that's all you do is train, eat, sleep, recover, and train. That's all you do. We can be the top 3 to 4 countries in the world within 3 to 5 years. I guarantee it. And it is just a matter of, I'm sure there's other factors involved, but it's a big possibility that we can do that. Not possibility, it is a fact that we can. It's just that we have to be there. Now, there is a lot of great athletes, but fighters need training partners, teammates. We have Karan here. He's a top level athlete. He's one of the best amateurs out of India, right? But for Karan to go to the next level, obviously he has a great teacher. He has a great group of people who are backing him up in training. But then you need that somebody at your weight, at your age, who will push you to make you better, and you push them to make them better. That's how that team evolves, right? So I mean, there's a lot of factors, but that's what's basically, I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Right. So we've agreed that there are 3 big problems that are sort of hindering everybody, and that you've come up with these solutions. So these 3 problems are: first is structure. The second is the financial issues that athletes go through, amateur athletes go through, even pros, and forgetting where you come from. Like, those are 3 very, very big problems that athletes face in this country. Just because of the little fame that they get, they tend to lose who they are and where they come from. What are some solutions that you've come up with? Now, I know this is a pretty long conversation and everything, but to address these 3 immediate issues that are keeping athletes, like high-level athletes, from getting better, from getting ahead, from getting where they need to be, what are your solutions to, 1, the structure, 2nd, sponsorships and finances, and the 3rd is just keeping them grounded? What are your solutions to that? The keeping them grounded part, I think you've covered, but the structure and the finance, what is your solution to that?
Now, if I am good at a certain field, I can give my best, and I have a certain standard that I can maintain at a high level, but I cannot do that with other aspects of, be it sponsorships, financial, so on and so forth. So that is I wouldn't say every team. There needs to be a team should be able to cover, or a promoter or whoever needs to be able to cover all these. We want to cover all those bases. We want to be able to give prehab, rehab, the medical attention, the grooming, the etiquette, the so on and so forth. Because if an athlete thinks he can, do all the push-ups in the world and he's going to be a world champion, then that's not going to be the case. Especially not in our game, or any game for that matter. You have to be a very well balanced person to be able to have a personality, to be able to sell yourself. And if you are able to do that, then it becomes easier for the people who are rooting for you, who are pushing you, who are supporting you. So the structure has to be there. But much before that, an athlete needs to understand you cannot take shortcuts. First you go to school, before that you go to the nursery. You have to learn the different subjects. In our case, the different subjects are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, different forms of grappling, different forms of striking, different forms of strength conditioning, agility, so on and so forth. Everything has to be there, and you cannot be too good in something and very less in something. I mean, you can be to get to a certain level, but then that's it. That's it. You will fall flat beyond a certain point. And a lot of athletes we have seen it's happened to them, not in India, I mean everywhere in the world. So first of all, is very important for them to understand what they're getting into. It's not just a cool thing, cage fighting, I'm a badass. That's not it. If this is your profession, you got to take it like it, right? So you kind of have to cover all the bases, and it is super imperative that you do that. So I mean, this goes on the shoulders of both the athlete and the person tending to the athlete, be it the coach, be it the manager, be it the doctor, be it whoever. So you have to develop yourself, and you have to have more than one game plan. It can't only be अच्छा घुसन मारूंगा तो जीत जाऊंगा. अगर वो नहीं चला, then what will you do? I used to tell Dinesh, let's say you have excellent wrestling, which he does, but tomorrow you fight another wrestler who also has excellent wrestling. What will you do? And he has striking, and he has submissions. That kind of gave him a light bulb right here. To be able to understand that. Same with Roshan. He never liked grappling. I'm sorry, he never liked BJJ, striking and BJJ. He thought ki thoda bahut karke, but then later he started understanding the importance of it. And sure, his wrestling was off the charts at a totally different level that people couldn't even comprehend, right? But when he entered, this from ground zero of your training is super paramount, because you don't have that there, then you have lost that much time, right? Now those 1 year, 2 years you have already lost. Now you have to make them up. As it is, you were behind when you started MMA or whatever sport that it is, you are referring, whatever it may be. In our case, MMA. So we are already behind, so we got to kind of put in that extra effort. Then we also have to have that extra recovery, because our body can only take so much. Right. And we have to kind of be able to perform as well. So I think as far as the structure is concerned, we need, one coach cannot teach everything to the best of his ability. To a certain level he can, yes. Beyond that, everybody's specialized. If I'm specialized in striking and let's say strategy, yes, my grappling game is going to be weak comparatively. I'm saying, yes, I'm sure there is exceptions to the rule. There always are, but I'm just talking on an average, right? Same goes for strength and conditioning. Same goes for whatever else. So that needs to be structured first. Yes, it'll only happen slowly. Surely it'll happen, but it'll happen slowly. And people are starting to do it. There's a lot of camps and people are doing it. They are putting in the effort into, the theory part of it, the psychology part of it. All these things are very important, because if I understand a thing in a certain way, my partner might not. My training partner and his partner, so on and so forth. So it is very important to structure everything so people understand. We literally need a school of mixed martial arts, which has different subjects, and you go through this. Javid, that's what they have in Pakistan. That's what he has, right? And
they go to Shaolin type school.
Correct. Yeah. So they have grappling, different types of grappling. Then they have striking, different types of striking, yes, and so on. And when you, correct, you're right, exactly right, Karan. And when Prashant, when you start doing this from a very young age, it's second nature to you. It's like walking, jumping, whatever other things naturally becomes very naturally to you. Yes, but that reaching that will take time. Like I said, there's all of us, in our camps and wherever we are in India, different coaches, different teams. That's what we are trying to bring, and we learn. We don't know everything. We need to upgrade ourselves as well. And in my case, I've not been able to upgrade myself since I started Koi because I didn't have the time, right? And that's super important. Now, how will all that happen? Is we need to get the India involved in it, where our athletes get a chance, where people start recognizing them, their names. Oh, he's an athlete. like they would, maybe not as soon, maybe not as a cricket athlete, but maybe, as somebody else, maybe a wrestling person or a boxing person or whatever it may be. And slowly but surely, trust me, it will build, and we will be on that right track. The one more other thing I'd like to say is that when in the US they started the tough reality show, Ultimate Fighter. UFC was about to go, was on its way out. This was apparently a last-ditch effort, right? And they pulled it off. They pulled it off brilliantly. Why? Because it became a household name slowly over the seasons. Because at that time, before it started, the senators didn't want it. Some states didn't want it. It was human cockfighting. The rules were such. The referee, in the first few UFCs, the referee couldn't stop the fight unless the guy was totally out. Right? Or the guy had to say it, or the corner had to. There were some certain rules. So it has developed, and over so many years, and now it's become what it is. So we need that here in India. We need people to understand. Obviously, the Indian public, China's public is different. India, we like different things, but there is some way to kind of spin it where people start appreciating it. This is not just barbaric fighting. This is super talented sports people, athletes who put themselves through hell to be able to do what they do and to accomplish their goals. Financial is to cover all the other parts that I am not good at. So like I said, Himanshu is super good at with his marketing, with organizing events, making things happen, right? Taking care of athletes. Priya is very good at grooming, so on and so forth. Then I do my thing. So you have to come from a well-rounded people who people who are well-rounded, and every box is checked. Yes, you have to. Otherwise, one thing lags, then that will kind of show up in a world championship or on a fight, on a title fight. It will show up.
It will.
And it works. It's like you said. You felt very hurt when somebody said something real bad about Indians. Yes, because that's what we have shown till now. Whatever the reason may be, we need to change it. One thing that I have always said, and I want to say here, if you don't mind, is
absolutely.
Here in India, I'm sure it happens all over. There is our talent pool is diluted because there is many different associations and federations, and we understand that not everybody can see eye to eye, or people have different goals or thought process, and because of which they work separately. But if we have a big fish, small pond kind of situation, then it'll take much longer to produce the legit fighters out of India. So I have always prayed that everybody does their respective national championships, or whatever it is. You have your athletes, but we should have a Super Bowl of MMA championship here in India. To know, not to put any federation down or to put any athlete down, to know actually kaun kitne pani mein hai, athlete wise. Pani mein bhi nahi hai. Who's the best is what I would like to say. So excuse that line. So that ways, we are not. Now you have 10 champions in one weight category in 10 federations, something like what boxing has. What will you do? You can never know who the best is. You never will. Correct. And but when you put these 10 together and you make them compete each other, they will elevate. In terms of performance, technique, whatever have you. So it is super imperative that happens, because we are already way behind as far as MMA is concerned. And then there is a lot of athletes like Karan himself who need this kind of competition to take him to the next level. Okay, let's say Karan can afford to go train outside. Maybe the other 10 athletes cannot. Or other 5 athletes cannot. So what to do then? Karan doesn't want to go live somewhere else. Maybe he wants to train in India. So there's a lot of factors to it. You understand what I'm trying to say, right? So it is if we can, at some point in time, if people can get together, there's a lot of people, and I know they can make it happen. Just, for the sake of the athletes, for the sake of India, for the sake of elevating the sport of MMA or any sport, similar or otherwise, this is what this has to be done. You dilute it, you will never have a true result. It just doesn't work like that. So it has to be. Now they are including. They have Khelo India games, and mostly the games they choose in that is mostly, I think, the ones that are allowed in Asian, Olympic committees or whatever it may be. But they need to think further and include MMA. Why do Russians do so well? Well, yes, they feel no pain. I believe it. They feel no pain. But I've fought many a Russian kickboxing and taekwondos, just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the reasons is, if you look at sambo, if you change certain rules and you remove the gi, it is MMA.
Yeah.
Karan, would you agree with me?
Yeah, 100%. Because a lot of those, you have a guy like Pasha Karakachaev, right? The super heavyweight champion of the world, IMAF super heavyweight champion of the world. That guy's sambo is on a different level. But you saw when you took the gi away, it's exactly the same thing. It's the same throws. It's the same top control. It's the same side control. It's the same everything, right? Khabib back in the day.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you've had Oleg Takhtarov, who was tournament champion in the UFC way back when. He was a sambo champion. You have Andrei Arlovsky. He's a sambo champion. You have Feyador. He's sambo champion. Khabib, he's sambo champion. Alexei, is he also a sambo champion? I'm not sure.
Alexei Olenek?
Yes.
Not too sure. I don't want to say something that's not true.
Okay, so I'm not sure about him, but the names I've taken, they are. So that is that's one of the reasons, is because they've been training, and even if you remove the champions, take on an average, if you take every weight class, then you have a lot of them, because that's what they do. That's what they've been doing, right?
Exactly. So in the most literal sense, this thing that you're talking about, diluting, about the talent pool in India being diluted just because of the different federations, in the most literal sense of having every federation come together and have their best guys fight everybody's best guys. It's very literally, it's like the UFC lightweights top 5. It's these guys. It's Dustin Poirier. It's Conor McGregor. It's Charles Oliveira, Khabib. It's all those guys that have just forced each other to get so much better that every time there's a lightweight fight, everybody tunes in to see it. Everybody knows, oh fuck, these guys are going to bring a fight. These guys are going to come to fight. We're not going to see some bullshit. We're not going to see again, I don't mean to trash anybody, but Islam Makhachev, he's so much better than everybody in that top 15 that he's in. He definitely deserves to be in the top 5, top 3 even. He is Khabib's successor, and I truly believe that. So when he breaks into that top 5, the whole equation is going to change, right? So we're able to have these conversations about the top 5 in such a different way, just because and the conversation about that top 5 is so different from the top 10 or top 15, and so the whole conversation changes whenever you talk about that weight division at every milestone. So that's exactly what it means in the most literal sense over here. When you talk about a nationals over here, there's a new. Again, I don't mean to sound very crass, but there's a new Chutia that comes in and competes for the first time. And he's competing against a guy that's 30-0, 31-0, 31-3, 31-4. These guys with like over 30, 40 fights. He's competing with somebody it's his first fight. It's his fourth fight. It's his fifth fight, right? So there's no proper way of determining who a proper national champion is. Sorry?
Total cans, competing with cans.
Yeah. Exactly. You're shooting nerds in a barrel at that point, right? So these guys are not competing against the best guys, and that leaves our Indian fighters sometimes becoming very complacent just because they're winning on a consistent basis against absolute nobodies.
Do you think it's a fear of losing? Do you think it's a fear of their credentials going down? Or they don't want to take the risk?
That's not my point. My point is that they're not competing against the best guys consistently. Right. So unless you can afford to go for the IMAFs every year, unless you can afford to go unless you can afford to turn pro, which is when you're at that sort of stage in your career, like you see a guy like Mehboob Khan, right? He's still fighting amateurs just because he wants one more IMAF medal before he moves on to fighting pro. Now that's somebody with legitimate credentials, because he's a world champion. You know that he can hang with the best guys in the world, right? But that's very difficult to find. So to create more 10 Mehboob Khans, you're going to have to have that sort of a mentality and have these guys compete consistently against the best guys, even if it's not from across the world. Have him compete against the best guys in the country. Coach, what do you think?
No, absolutely. That's what this is all about, And I wouldn't, I mean, there's a lot of sometimes there's a lot of people, athletes who come who may be good at a certain field or a certain discipline, and they've come into MMA thinking they're a national champion in whatever field they're coming from. I wouldn't certainly call them. I would just say that they're not seasoned enough to face, whoever the top guys are in that federation or whoever the eventual national champion is.
Mhm.
So as long as your idea of what you're doing is right, then you're fine. You'll keep learning. But if you are misguided by yourself or by somebody and you think
Mhm.
shortcuts would work, then it absolutely doesn't work that way. There's a lot of other challenges as well. Some federations may not want their athletes competing somewhere else, and this
Exactly.
and that, and athletes will run over. Maybe coaches like me want my athletes to fight all over because we need to know where we stand. That is the only way we can gauge ourselves. Like Karan rightly said, no, not everybody can afford to go to outside India for a tournament, and Asian or world or kuch bhi ho. So it is, and he's very right as far as people like Mehboob. So let's say we put Mehboob Khan, Dinesh, and AJ, and other guys. Like AJ is more bantamweight. These guys are flyweights, and you
Mhm.
put whoever the top guys are. You will not only find out who the top dog is, but you will also start seeing eventually how the level of MMA increases,
Yeah.
level of competition increases. Because I mean, if my guy who's a legit guy loses to another legit guy, I want to train him better than he wants to train. I mean, it's obviously
Yeah.
a positive effect in that sense. So
Yeah.
it is. So we need to do it. I don't know who can make it happen, but it is super imperative that we do. I mean, I know, actually, I do know the people who can make it happen, but they need to
Yeah.
kind of. I think Karan
Okay.
also has a very good idea. That's
Yeah.
why he laughs. So we
Yeah.
need to actually
Yeah.
come together and put our differences aside and do it. Just for the
Yeah.
competition, we don't have to go to each other's house, this and that. We need to be professionals and make it happen. Our India's name will be up there, guaranteed. Guaranteed. The person who fought this time around, when we had a very bad showing as a country, when Mehboob, he only had one fight, right, Karan?
Yeah. He
At
only
this
one
World
fight.
Champion.
He
Yeah.
fought only one fight, and then he didn't make
Yeah.
weight for the second one.
The guy, yeah. So, and the guy he fought, I think, was from New Zealand or Australia. I'm not sure.
Australia.
But
Australia.
Australia. The guy was in total shock. Prashant. The guy was in total shock. He said, "I don't even know what happened to me. He manhandled me." These were his words. He manhandled me.
Oh.
Yeah, we were in the
So,
elevator when we were speaking to him, right?
Acha.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, that level, but that level of experience is also important. Now, Dinesh went, and Dinesh was a hopeful for a medal, at least as far as I'm concerned. Training was there, everything was there. I'm sure everything can be done better, right? But
Mhm.
once we got there, he was up against the Pan American champion, who was a jiu-jitsu
Yeah.
specialist.
Israel
And these
Khan
guys,
Galbao. Yeah.
correct. So one of the things was that when they researched a guy, they researched a different guy with the same name who was a striker. Okay, chalo, usko bhi hata do. This guy did exactly what he was not supposed to do. He south to south a shot, gave his neck, and then went into his guard. Fell on the same side
Half
and then
guard.
went. Though
Yeah.
falling to the side and going the guard would be two different things. But what I'm saying is that amount of nervousness, right?
Mhm.
So before becoming a double national champion here in India and an Asian silver medalist in BJJ, Dinesh was a state silver medalist or a bronze medalist, I think. One of the two, I don't remember. And that also because he was cheated against. He never had that kind of experience, that international. I remember when the first time, and Karan can vouch for it, when he first time fought internationally, I'm sure the first time I fought, I couldn't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
The stage seemed like huge, sometimes small. The lights were like totally different. Opponent in front of me, wo bhi foreign ka opponent hai. That kind of mentality back. I'm talking about 25 years back. So 25, 30 years back. So,
my oldest shit. Yeah.
Coming back to it. So once if we are able to get together as Indians and promote our country and the sport of MMA with a true true feeling of camaraderie, regardless of we don't get along, trust me, we will have results. I don't care what federation, who, where, when, how.
So another thing I wanted to add to what Coach was saying, about us coming together as Indians, and having all this passion for what we're doing. Everybody needs to do it very, very sensibly. Now, what I mean by that is when you enter such a big stage, when you enter the IMF World Championships, you know exactly where the fuck you are. You know that it's the Olympics of MMA. You know that it's the highest of the highest level in amateur MMA in the world. And that sometimes tends to get the better of you. Coach, correct me if I'm wrong. Because a lot of us that went there with very, went there with a lot of passion, went there with with a heart full of dreams, and just us looking forward to our futures from there on. And we got stopped where we got stopped just because the way we approached it was, making it a bigger deal than it actually was. So when you do that, you tend to let your emotions get the better of you, which doesn't let you see. At least this is my take from it, because this is what happened to me. I made it to be such a big deal where I let my emotions, when I got in the cage, get the better of me, and I wasn't able to keep objectivity in perspective. Where I know that, okay, fine, I have to get through 5 more fights. I can't just be happy to show up over here. I have to be focused on winning the next couple of fights.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people do not realize. Right. So
Absolutely.
yeah, Coach, are you there? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. So it is now the thing comes to mind after what you said is experience is the key when all this happens. Anything you do for the first time, I'm talking related to MMA, Karan. Anything you do for the first time, it is without experience. It's a totally different feeling till the time your body, mind, and soul get used to it, right?
Right.
And then you start. You could react it to the best way possible the first time only, but unfortunately, on an average, that is not the case.
Yeah.
So, and even in Karan's case, let's if we don't even talk international, Karan has good experience. He has good technique. He has good training. He has good coaches, and but like I said, everything has to come together. You could be real good in one. You could be real good in one aspect, and the others you're kind of not even halfway there. Then you're gonna falter, and it's like Surbala is not new to World Championships. She's already a kickboxing world champion, but that wasn't at that big a stage. You understand? I'm not discounting what she's earned.
Obviously,
I mean, it took hard work, but being there, out there, and you got to be there to understand it. Like I cannot tell you what it would feel like being, at the Olympics, because I've not been there. Now I can tell you what it feels like being in a football stadium in US, American football, or being at the IMF arena. So it is. There's a lot that needs to be done, and certain things will fall in place because like when you put yourself in the right, when you place your placement is right of yourself, then everything starts falling in place because you are around the same-minded people, right? And things things start working out. That it's because of that. That is the whole point. So I totally agree with Karan in that respect. We are no less. Trust me, if you want talent, India's population should be able to produce the best talent. One of the best talents, if not the best. It is a matter of picking up these kids who have the potential, give them a chance. Trust me. But the thing is, the flip side to that is, I may not have a business angle or didn't have it up till now, but people have to survive. I have to survive. I have to make my car run to be able to go to the gym, to be able to train those guys. I need to keep the lights on at the gym, right? So it is a vicious cycle, unfortunately. But the earlier Shuru said, if we start taking the right steps and don't take those shortcuts, whatever it may be, then you'll be more, you'll be very sorted at the end of it. So a lot of, so a lot of people might not show those results upfront in the beginning, but once they start getting seasoned and complete, they'll be a totally different animal. Imagine people like Kanta, Roshan, Sumit Kande, Karan, and I'm sure I'm missing a few names. I hope nobody gets mad at me. And all the top dogs are, amateur or pro. If they get a setup where this is the only thing they do is train, like I said before, imagine what kind of crazy people they would be. India is getting to a spot in wrestling, right? So in boxing for this Olympics with all the kind of qualifications we've had, but yes, I think the past 3 to 5 to 8 years we've really started showing ourselves in wrestling, and it will only grow. It will only grow. Same for MMA. We shouldn't wait कि MMA Asians में आएगा या some form of MMA or Sambo comes into the Asians or Olympics, then we start training the people. That is, we're already behind. We need to do it now. The Khelo India needs to include MMA now. So we are ready for it 3 to 5 to 8 years down the lane. Agar wo bhi nahi hota, we are already prepared for the World Championships, because it is not human cockfighting. This is a prestigious sport that takes tenacity, determination, work ethic, perseverance, I mean, I could go on all day. So and because you have to cross train, and there's only so many hours in a day and so many days in a week and so on, we are already behind. We have our top athletes are up there in the 30s. Most of our top athletes are professional, correct? You understand? So we need to, the government actually, if Mr. Kiran Rijiju is listening, or if he ever gets to, I would really, really, really request, do not wait for the last moment to include and give some sort of assistance, some sort of program to athletes of MMA, because I guarantee one thing. I have seen athletes. Okay, we went for this national right now, right? This guy who comes from, now Roshan has his gym, RMX. This guy, Charanjit. 2.5 months he's in MMA. He used to play football before that. He doesn't wipe the floor. Okay, I wouldn't say that, but he dominates and wins the gold against seasoned athletes. This is 2020, 2021. You cannot take at least our domestic level has come up comparatively to before. And so imagine that is one guy. Imagine other states, UTs, everything else. Bangalore is a melting pot, like Karan said before. The who of MMA. There's a lot of them here. Then you have Maharashtra, right? Then you have Delhi. You have so many. You have 2, 3, 4 good teams in Delhi. Everywhere. It is just, if I don't have money to buy something, I cannot buy it finished. If I cannot pay money for my training, I cannot pay it. Not everybody is like, certain people who would say, okay, come, you just train, don't worry about the money.
Right.
We'll take you to your goal. And if that is the case, the athlete needs to understand that if somebody has supported you throughout your journey of training, on a basis where it's something like a, where you've not paid anything other than your blood, sweat, and tears, you need to support that person back. And I'm not saying it for myself. I'm generally saying it because people jump ship real fast.
Yes.
So correct. That is something that is they shouldn't do for their longevity. Because if you go to US and you see a guy who's jumping from one gym to the other, third one, you can't come in. Guaranteed, they will tell you to FO. Because they know this is a small, there might be a lot of athletes, but it's actually a small community when it comes to federations, coaches, teams, so on and so forth. And now with social media, everything is visible.
Right.
Exactly. So nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, but a person, apart from the push-ups and squats and takedowns and kicks and punches, need to have proper guidance, mentorship. They need mentors, coaches. That is, especially with Roshan, that is one place that he understood, right? And he already had a mind of the champion. So things to kind of deliver information, just delivering the information was not enough. He registered it and then he followed through with it.
Right.
So if athletes start to understand that, it would alleviate a lot of these situations that that kind of slow us down in that respect. And I guarantee one thing: if we are able to do something like that, we will be one of the top 3 to 5 countries very soon. But it would not. That would take the all the federations, MMA India, be it could be GAMMA India, it could be IMF, could be IMA, could be whoever it is. Right? These are the 4 I know of. I don't know if there is any more.
No, I don't think there's any more. No, I don't think there's any more.
Okay. Yeah. So if they were, if somehow, somewhere, if somebody can do mediation and do it, I promise you one thing: we will be superstars. And there is life beyond IMF. When you come to pro, and if you have not learned a considerable amount in this day and age in your amateur career, you will be very lost as a pro. So again, it comes back to the same thing: big fish, small pond.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what this whole platform is. That's why I wanted you on here to speak about all of this. For everybody to put their differences aside. Whenever I have somebody on here, I don't want them to kiss some federation's ass, to promote their sponsors. I don't want that. I wanted people on here to understand the harsh fucking reality of this sport. I want them to understand exactly what goes in to doing it, not just in the cage but outside the cage, because we make it look very pretty on Instagram. We make it look very good on Facebook. We make it look very, very good on YouTube, right? On TV, on ESPN. The SFL was very briefly on ESPN for a while. It looks very good. It looks very good from the outside, but on the inside, it's like a fucking mental asylum. It's everybody banging into each other, screaming, shins to chins, fists to faces. It's not a very pretty thing. It's very chaotic. So understanding and making the right moves to further the sport, not just further certain federations, not just to further your sponsors, your individual sponsors, not just. Excuse me, sorry, my phone sort of malfunctioned. Sorry. So not just to push people forward who have an agenda, but also to push people forward who want the sport to get further. Right. The sport getting further on its own is a struggle. Right. So letting the sport get further in our country is even more of a struggle, because you're fighting so many different things. And that's why I have people like Vishal Seigell on here. That's why I have people like Ashwin Hoon, Ajit Segamani, Balakrishna, Webov. We've had people like that who can speak and who understand about the harsh realities of the sport, not just from the perspective of coaches, not just from the perspective of athletes, but also people who understand the sport for what it is and what it brings and the mindfuck that it is as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Coach, there's another
so
thing.
Prashant, is there anything?
I wanted to ask you. So we've talked about the federations, the fighters, what they need to do, how we need to come together. But you briefly also talked about coaches. Now, what it is about coaching when you look at Indian MMA, what it is about coaching that excites you, that inspires you as you also coach your athletes, and what are some aspects that pain you when you look at the Indian MMA scene in terms of coaching all over the country?
Not so much anymore, but initially, when MMA had started in India, we had too many people who could teach everything under the sun. So that kind of that gives a lot of people a different idea of what like what just Karan said. They don't really understand what they're getting themselves into. That is one thing that really pained me, and it's not limited to India. It's all over the world. That was the biggest and the most problematic thing that I thought. Second is animosity, but that is not something you can control. The good part though is now if you look. If you can pick up mostly any location in India, when you have decent and very well educated camps. Let's start with Delhi. Legit cross-trained fight club. Warriors Cove.
Warriors Cove.
BJJ Delhi or BJJ India, Arun, though he is more for self-defense, but he's also very legit. If I'm missing any, then you have Jamshed Khan and SFL Gym in Delhi. You come down to Maharashtra, I don't even need to say anything. The three come off the top of your head. You have
Evolution MMA.
Evolution, Jitinder Khare, then you have Chaitanya, then you have Sanjeevan. And there are more as well. I'm just not
off the top of your head. Yeah.
Yes, then you come into Bangalore. You have so many here in Bangalore as well. And so the good part is that now, if you really you go to any national, and if you really want to learn about their coach or their team, you go sit behind their corner, and you see the chemistry between the corner and the fighter, and you see how they perform. It doesn't mean the fighter is a high level fighter. You got to start with basics somewhere and understand each other. That will show you. Now, people, the names I've taken, these guys have there's some that I don't see eye to eye with. Yes. And Chennai, Ajit Combat Kinetics, I forgot to mention. So, but what they are doing is the right thing. They have taken the time to invest into learning and teaching, right? So if and that also authentic, not some bull crap, right? So that is what really brings happiness to the heart in that respect. I myself started martial arts when I was 6 or 7. I started with judo. I'm 46 now. So, for me, even in school, 11th, in my 11th grade, I went 3 or 4 times to school to study. The rest of the time, it was always training. So that's how crazy I was. So it really, from that aspect, from that perspective, it brings a lot of happiness to see that people are raising the standard. And when you give good knowledge, you will get good results. So I was very lucky. My mother was a sports person. She was also relentless when it came to sports. My brother, same. My coach. I've had a lot of coaches, but especially my coach, Narendra Singh Rawat. What he instilled in me in terms of the understanding, in terms of quality, in terms of everything that was involved with that, it just gives you a different way of working, so that brings a lot of happiness to see that the standard of MMA is going up. Some are athletes who's just started from scratch, no background. Some are athletes who are coming from wrestling, some wushu, some striking, boxing, whatever it may be, judo, whatever it may be. But the standard in Indian MMA is certainly improving. No, we're not there yet compared to other countries. Absolutely, we're not. But we know where we started.
Right.
And I personally thank for the person who's considered the father of Indian MMA, because he did introduce MMA to India. It was in a totally different form at that point in time, but it was new, and they did with what they had. We can sit and criticize, wo aisa karate, waisa karate. No, it was limited knowledge, limited resources, but they did it, right? Maybe somebody would have done it later, but everybody, there has been, there is a father that gives birth, and parents that give birth, and there are parents that, could be surrogate, you know what I mean?
Essentially, you need somebody to kick down the door to that sort of
correct.
funhouse.
So that is the thing. Coaches like Siddharth, like Ajit, like Jitinder, and so many others, Sanjeevan, Ashwin Hoon from Warriors Cove, and Jahangir Raza, that not a lot of people know about. He's actually the one who I think initially started Warriors Cove, when he was initially the first guy teaching out of cross train as well, and right now I'm not able to think, but there's a lot of people who are even showing improvement. So excuse me if I missed some names. ICSA is also a good team, and they're doing the right thing. They are doing the right thing. They are learning properly. They are teaching properly. So that is what is required. That is how the competition will go up. That is how the knowledge and the quality goes up, and then automatically your competition will, your fighters will, combat athletes will grow and evolve. right? If we were to have
Absolutely.
a team like Evolve or a Jackson Jackson Wink MMA or whatever, and King's MMA, and that well structured, trust me, give us some time. It is not easy. It's not magic that I give you that somebody gives us infrastructure tomorrow, machine se nikal gaye. It takes time to build somebody, but it will happen. It's not rocket science in that sense, right? We just need to be in that place, and to be in that place, it may seem very certain small mundane details, but they are what puts everything together. And it is very important that that's like the adhesive glue that sticks everything together. So a lot of good camps, a lot of positive things are happening. It's just that there's certain other things we need to do, and I really hope that happens. But one thing is very important, that the fighters need to understand loyalty.
Yes.
Fighters need to understand it is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. You can take any amount of juice. You will not be going beyond a certain point in your career. You just can't do it. You'll do it here. You go to a promotion that is using USADA. You're going to be busted every time, and you're out.
Exactly.
So, and I'm not making any reference to any athlete
Obviously.
from India or from anywhere. I'm just telling you, because a lot of these new young guys, that's what they think. Asteroid, le len sir, asteroid, and they just don't understand the implications of health or career. Or whatever else is attached to it. So it is a process. It cannot be done overnight. So, yeah. I don't know what happens. There's so many more coaches and teams.
Yeah, exactly. There's just so much that you want to say, but so little that's actually coming to you right now, huh?
Yeah. Another discussion that's being made these days is about the belt system in Indian MMA and of sorts. So before I ask you the question, Seigell, I want Karan to explain the current situation of the belt system in India and what changed right now, and what are the problems, what are the concerns that people have about it exactly.
So the belt system that IMAF has introduced is you need to be. Are you aware of it, Coach?
I am a little bit.
Because I'm not too well educated on the. I'm not too well educated on that topic. Yeah.
I was going to push. I was going to push it on you as well, because I heard about it. I read about it.
Yeah.
No. It's not necessarily bad, but I have a certain way of, a certain opinion. But I'll let you say whatever you were saying, and then. But I'm not very informed about what the thought process is behind it, as far as IMF and the national body is concerned, or other national bodies are concerned of different countries. But for the most part, I think Karan would know a little bit more in terms of IMF related.
You'd think, but no. But all I do know is that it gives a certain amount of legitimacy to your knowledge of what MMA training should be. So they give you a certain amount of information. They teach you a certain amount of submissions, a certain amount of basic striking that you need to be very familiar with. And that's how they go about giving the belt. So if you understand maybe 10 different types of punches, 10 different types of submission, 10 different types of kicks, you get a blue belt, right?
Okay.
So when somebody is looking to become an MMA coach, they become very well versed with what an armbar is, what a triangle is, very basic submissions, very basic setups of those submissions. Then as you go a little higher into the belt system, you gain more and more and more, and it gives a certain amount of legitimacy to it. But without actually having to put that into practice, you're sometimes left to question that sort of legitimacy, which leaves a very big hole and a very big gray area in terms of whether it's actually legitimate or it's not. See, again, I don't know enough about it to be able to comment on it very strongly, but this is what I understand from it. So if you understand anything, Coach, can you please tell us about what the belt system is like and what your opinion is on it?
So I'll just go again. I think one of the reasons it came into being was, let's say tomorrow you have a Jiu-Jitsu world champion going for a MMA world championship, and then you have a guy who's done maybe BJJ for 2 years and MMA for 2 years or what have you. So they cannot, they're obviously of not the same level, is what my understanding is. I am all for it in that sense. However, um, I don't, it when it becomes commercialized is where the problem is, because that's where that's another thing where the level of the level of MMA gets diluted, because belts are given away to. I'm not accusing anybody in MMA in India or anywhere else. I'm just saying what I've seen in other martial arts. The belts are given too easy, too soon, and the knowledge and the quality gets diluted. I am all for the quality. I cannot handle. Every level should have a certain amount of quality, a certain amount of
Right.
So the whole thing is that that is what scares me the most about the belt system. Many years ago in India, I don't know if you heard, a lot of black belts got blue belts in BJJ, and I am not sure what their experience was with BJJ or what the reasoning was, but from what I heard was that they were not um, uh, they should have not received those. So if anything like that was to happen, then because how it waters it down is because when that person becomes a coach tomorrow, he's coming with that kind of knowledge which he's passing on. When that passes on, that is what represents India, right? I don't like that kind of shit. I can't appreciate that. I will never appreciate that. There'll always be exceptions to the rule, like I said before, but that is the scary part of it. I'm not seeing the belt system up till now. That's what I've seen. I've seen people who are black belts, 1, 2, 3 dans, whatever, and they just shouldn't be. They just shouldn't even be half of that. So that is what is the scary part. So as far as the only time is to tell. See, now if let's say Karan runs a federation or a school with 20 instructors, Karan can control the 20 instructors. Okay, now those 20 will have another 20.
Right.
And those 20, let's say, have another 20 or even 10. How much can he control? Right. So I'm just kind of giving you an example. There is always a yin and a yang, right? So that is the part that that is scary. But as far as levels are really required, so it is an even playing field. You can't match a white belt with a black belt. You just can't do it. In terms of, I'm not talking literal belt. I'm talking experience. And so on. So that for that you could also use level 1, level 2, whatever, or maybe some other terminology. I don't know, but I mean, there's many experienced people with a lot of wealth of experience, collective experience, who have taken this decision. So they may, I mean, they're sitting in a place where they can project it better. But you also have to remember, a federation and association also has to make itself run. It also has to organize competitions, workshops, so on and so forth. There are people in place that have to be paid a salary. So it is required in a way. You know what I mean? Because this does generate funding, right? Or some sort of, at least. So I mean, that's my thought process. I could be totally wrong, but as long as it can't be kept in check, because people love black belts. They love getting black belts, if you know what I mean, or blue belts who quit after. No, I'm just kidding. So so it is, if that is something that you cannot control beyond a certain point. So that is the only scary thing I can see. It shouldn't ever get watered down. Right? You already have some legit BJJ people in terms of instructors in India who are legitimate, and we mentioned Siddharth, we mentioned Ashwin, we mentioned Arun, we mentioned Jitinder. All these guys are legitimate, right? I don't know if Karan knows this, but when I was in American Jiu-Jitsu, I was competing. We used to do traditional sport and combat, right? So in sport and combat, I was a purple belt. But I am not a purple belt in BJJ. So I'm not going to go claim, oh, I'm a purple belt, come learn from me. You know what I mean? When that shit starts happening, it's going to go down the drain. And unfortunately, it gives us a bad name. So, and it's happened before in your taekwondos, in your karates, and not so sure about judo, but I just hope it does not enter BJJ and MMA, because it's as legit as it comes when I'm talking about BJJ and MMA. To realistics.
Right. That sounds good. Sounds like we had a fantastic episode today. Prashant, what do you think?
But before letting him go, we are going to ask which we ask almost every one of our guests, because that's what everyone always has on their minds. Coach, who are the top 3 prospects that you hope that they'll do good in MMA, in Indian MMA? In Indian MMA. Now, I know you
this could
not, but this question has to be there, and you need to have an answer for this.
These could be amateurs. These could.
I'm going to go to pros because they might just come kick. No, see, I'll stay away from the pros part because I'm not very well versed with every athlete. I am from amateur. So I'll name 3 to 5 athletes. One athlete is Sumit Bayan from Relentless. From Evolution.
Yeah,
from
Relentless.
Jatinder Khar's gym. His background is wrestling, and he's super legit. I've seen him fight, and I think he's also a silver medalist
in the World Championships, in the GAMMA World Championships. Yes,
that was World Championships.
Yeah, correct.
Or Asian.
In Singapore.
Okay, well,
in Singapore.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So that guy has a lot of potential. If he listens to his coach, I think he can do very well. The other, now you're putting me in a spot. See, some people will think I'm. So I would say 2 other athletes as of now. I'm talking strictly amateur. Is obviously Mehboob Khan, Naorem Dinesh. And I by far I can say Surbala Laishram. She has been sidelined due to an injury, which she kind of re-injured herself. Karan, I'll tell you about that later.
Of course.
And AJ, Aaquib, Javid. So he's a grinder. So these guys, why I say because I train them, so I can see that potential in them. Again, because I'm not very well versed with people from other camps, the names from other camps. Sumit, I know because I saw him fight firsthand. There is also a couple of kids from Meme's gym out of Nagaland, and who can do very well. Bishwamitra from Roshan gym. He's gone back to Manipur, so he's training under Roshan gym, RMX. And so Charanjit has a long way to go, even though he did very well at the nationals. He has a long way to go to understand. But I made him, when he wore the gloves, I was checking his gloves. I said, get a grip on my hand, and he gripped my hand. This guy participated, I think, featherweight. Yes, right. I'm about 84, 85. I felt that grip, Karan. I cannot explain to you. I'm like, damn, boy. So I mean, people like him will take a little bit while because he has to learn the whole thing. But those are the names. And if I didn't mention anybody who's worthy, I do apologize. There is one guy out of Common Kinetics. I'm not remembering his name right now.
Kaushik Sai Kumar or Lennon?
Yes, Kaushik Sai Kumar and Lennon, both of them, and even Pasha.
Yeah.
But Pasha needs a little more work, though his striking is very good. See, they have good fundamentals. So, I mean, actually, I'm so very sorry, Prashant. You asked me for 3. If it was my way, I'll name 30 because all of them do, and they showed something good. Now if you're looking for somebody who gave a flawless, performance, it would be somebody like Charanjit, who only has 2 months of experience. And there's another kid who won the flyweight division. I forget his name. He's from Meme's camp. He at the GAMMA India Championship he did. So, and I think Warrior Cove has that guy something Thapa.
Aman
Rahul
Thapa.
Rahul Thapa.
No, Rahul Thapa. Yeah.
Rahul
lightweight.
So and he's pretty slick, right? With
he's very good. Yes.
Very good. So there is Prashant, to answer your question. I'm sorry, actually I over answered it. But I sincerely ask for your forgiveness. But there's a lot of them. I can't stop at 3. I apologize. And I can't name Karan because Karan is sitting here, so I cannot. People will think I'm taking.
You can't feed my ego like that.
Yeah. Karan is my best friend. I can't take his name. No.
Yeah.
So I mean, I people who there's too many to name. It's just that you need to get them under the right circumstances with the right people to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
So yes,
So
honestly,
tell me.
almost
Sorry,
said
Prashant,
10
go ahead.
names. You almost had 10 names there, but that's what we are going to take as an answer. And so I think that it was an amazing episode. Karan, what do you say?
Yeah, one of our longer episodes, man. Seriously, because there's just so many things to talk about. So many things that come to mind, but so few that you can actually say without actually naming names and ratting everybody out. But I'm so glad that I thought of Vishal as our next as our next guest, because I don't think anybody can speak about the sport as really as he can, and with less regard for public opinion. So that's exactly what the mission is with this, not caring about public opinion, but caring about the growth of our sport, and that's exactly what we need. So thank you, Mr. Seigell, for coming on. Seriously.
Pleasure is all mine, Karan and Prashant. But Prashant, in other words, what Karan just said, I really appreciate that, Karan. And let me tell you, I really think Karan is a very respectful, humble, and stand-up guy. I cannot compliment him enough. On a serious note, I do mean it. If I am in a conversation with you, I can't say that obviously he's right here, so I have to take his name. I know in my heart what he's capable of in terms of one of the best prospects, excuse me. But what Karan just said is I'm well known for shooting myself in the foot, because I don't if I have to, I'm very straightforward, that, and it has not won me any favors, I'll tell you that also. But hopefully people will realize that the tone of my voice is not what I mean. It is really what I'm trying to do, which is, and I'm not perfect. I've messed up a lot of times, but my whole aim is to learn from my mistakes and learn more from others to be able to provide a better platform for any kind of athlete that really wants to be somewhere, do my little part in that, whatever it may be. So it is and one other thing is that platforms like yours, it increases awareness, because people listen to you, they hear you. So this is very important, especially for the athletes nowadays, to appreciate their respective teams, obviously, but also the federations they compete in. There is a process and a way to do things. You do it that way. Don't take shortcuts. I cannot stress that enough. And I think Karan has been in enough tournaments and enough in the cage and around it, where you see these kids who have the potential, but they keep making the same mistake repeatedly, and then they wonder why am I not evolving. So if one thing is not working, you do have to, but there is a way to take those steps. You just don't do it in a disrespectful, unprofessional manner. And if anybody correct. So if even in the past, if anybody I have said anything that got offended, and I'm on your hit list, I sincerely do apologize.
So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We end with an apology, and I think this was one of the best episodes we've had, along with all the others. And thank you, Coach, and of course, thanks my man Karan Chauhan, and for this.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, for this amazing episode. And looking forward to better days in Indian MMA. Looking forward to greater days in Indian MMA. That was it, ladies and gentlemen, from the Combat Exchange show. See you till next time. Goodbye.
Thank you, Combat.
Cheers.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks, Coach Seigell.